Dog won't leave baby's side. What parents found made them call 911. The Johnson family had always considered themselves lucky. Living in a quiet suburb of Portland, Oregon, they had everything they'd ever dreamed of. A cozy three-bedroom house with a white picket fence, successful careers, and most importantly, their beautiful 6-month-old daughter, Emma. But it was their 4-year-old German Shepherd, Duke, who truly completed their family. Duke had been with Sarah and Michael Johnson since he was a puppy, long before Emma came into the world. He was gentle, loyal, and had the kind of intelligent eyes that seemed to understand every word spoken to him. When Sarah became pregnant, friends and family had expressed concerns about how Duke would react to the new baby, but the Johnsons never doubted their faithful companion. The day they brought Emma home from the hospital, Duke's behavior was nothing short of remarkable. He approached the tiny bundle with careful, measured steps, his tail wagging slowly as he sniffed the air around her. From that moment on, he appointed himself as Emma's personal guardian. He would lie beside her crib during nap time, follow Sarah from room to room whenever she carried the baby, and let out a low, protective growl if strangers came too close. "He's going to be her best friend," Michael had said with a smile, watching Duke gently nuzzle Emma's tiny hand. For 6 months, life unfolded beautifully. Emma grew from a fragile newborn into a giggly, bright-eyed baby who would squeal with delight whenever Duke entered the room. The dog seemed to understand his role perfectly, patient when she grabbed his fur, gentle when she babbled at him, and always, always watchful. But then, on a cold November evening, everything changed. Sarah was putting Emma down for the night, going through their usual bedtime routine. She sang softly, rocked her daughter gently, and laid her in the crib with her favorite stuffed elephant. Duke, as always, was stationed beside the crib, his massive head resting on his paws. This was normal. This was their routine. "Good night, sweet girl," Sarah whispered, kissing Emma's forehead before turning on the baby monitor and quietly leaving the room. An hour later, as Sarah and Michael settled onto the couch to watch a movie, they heard it, a sound that made Sarah's blood run cold. Duke was barking, not his usual alert bark or his playful yap, but a deep, urgent, almost frantic barking that echoed through the house. "What's wrong with him?" Michael said, already on his feet and heading toward the stairs. They rushed to Emma's room, their hearts pounding. What they found made Sarah gasp. Duke wasn't just barking, he was pawing desperately at the crib, trying to climb in, his entire body trembling with agitation. His barks had turned into desperate whines, and when he saw them enter, he looked at them with eyes that seemed to scream for help. "Duke, what's wrong?" Sarah moved toward the crib, but Duke blocked her path, his body tense. Then Michael noticed it. "Sarah, look at Emma." The baby's face was slightly blue-tinged, and her tiny chest was barely moving. She was struggling to breathe. "Oh my God!" Sarah scooped Emma up immediately, and the moment she lifted her daughter, she heard it. A faint whistling sound coming from Emma's airways. The baby's eyes were half closed, and her little body was limp. "Call 911, Michael shouted, already grabbing his phone with shaking hands. Sarah held Emma upright against her shoulder, patting her back firmly but carefully, trying to clear whatever was blocking her breathing. Duke stayed right beside them, whining and circling anxiously, his tail tucked between his legs. 911, what's your emergency? My baby, she's 6 months old. She can't breathe properly. Michael's voice cracked with panic as he relayed their address. The operator's voice was calm and professional. Is she conscious? Can you see any obstructions? Sarah tilted Emma's head back slightly, peering into her mouth. I can't see anything, but she's making a horrible whistling sound when she tries to breathe. Keep her upright. Don't lay her down. Paramedics are 3 minutes away. Those 3 minutes felt like an eternity. Sarah walked in circles, holding Emma upright, tears streaming down her face as she whispered prayers. Michael stood by the window, watching for the ambulance, while Duke never left Sarah's side, his eyes fixed on the baby. When the paramedics burst through the door, they moved with swift efficiency. One of them, a woman named Jennifer with kind eyes and steady hands, took Emma from Sarah's arms while her partner prepared oxygen. "Good call keeping her upright," Jennifer said, examining Emma with practiced precision. "She's got stridor, upper airway obstruction. We need to get her to the hospital now." "What caused it?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Could be croup, could be an allergic reaction. We'll know more at the hospital. But you called at exactly the right time. If she'd been lying down much longer—" Jennifer didn't finish the sentence, but the implication hung heavy in the air. As they loaded Emma into the ambulance, Sarah clutching her daughter's tiny hand, she looked back at their house. Duke stood in the doorway, his silhouette illuminated by the porch light, watching them leave. In that moment, Sarah understood. Duke had known. Somehow, he had sensed that something was terribly wrong before any human could have noticed. At the hospital, doctors determined that Emma had developed a severe case of croup, a respiratory infection that had caused her airways to swell dangerously. The whistling sound Sarah had heard was stridor, the last stage before complete airway blockage. "Most parents don't catch croup this severe until it's too late," Dr. Martinez explained, his expression serious. "The fact that you got her here when you did, that saved her life. Another 10 or 15 minutes and we'd be having a very different conversation." Sarah broke down then, the weight of what could have happened crushing down on her. Michael held her as she sobbed, both of them overwhelmed with gratitude and residual terror. "How did you know to check on her?" Dr. Martinez asked. "We didn't," Michael admitted. "Our dog, he wouldn't stop barking. He was trying to get our attention, trying to tell us something was wrong." Dr. Martinez smiled slightly. "Animals have extraordinary instincts. He probably heard changes in her breathing that were imperceptible to human ears." Emma was kept overnight for observation, receiving treatments to reduce the airway inflammation. By morning, the dangerous swelling had subsided, and her breathing had returned to normal. The doctors pronounced her stable and ready to go home with strict monitoring instructions and medications. When they finally pulled into their driveway, Duke was waiting at the front window, just as he had been all night. The moment they opened the door, he bounded toward them, his tail wagging frantically. But his focus wasn't on Sarah or Michael. It was on Emma, safely tucked in her carrier. Duke sniffed her carefully, his tail still wagging, and then he let out what could only be described as a sigh of relief before licking Emma's tiny hand. The baby, now alert and healthy, giggled at the sensation, her small fingers reaching for Duke's soft fur. "Good boy," Sarah whispered, kneeling down to embrace the dog who had saved her daughter's life. "Such a good boy." That night, as they settled Emma back into her crib with a humidifier running and medications within reach, Duke resumed his position beside her. But something had shifted. The Johnsons no longer saw him as just a pet, or even just a family member. He was Emma's guardian angel with 4 legs and a heart more perceptive than any monitor or device. Sarah stood in the doorway, watching Duke keep his vigil, and made a silent promise. She would never doubt an animal's instinct again. She would trust Duke's judgment as much as her own. Because when it mattered most, when Emma's life hung in the balance, it wasn't technology or parental intuition that saved her. It was the unwavering loyalty and inexplicable awareness of a dog who loved her. As weeks passed and Emma fully recovered, the story of Duke's heroism spread through their community. Friends and family visited just to meet the remarkable German Shepherd who had sensed what no human could. But Duke remained unchanged, humble, gentle, and forever devoted to the little girl he'd protected. Years later, when Emma would be old enough to understand, Sarah would tell her this story. She would explain how Duke had been more than just a pet. He had been her first protector, her earliest friend, and the reason she was still here to hear the tale. But for now, in this quiet moment with Emma breathing peacefully and Duke keeping watch, Sarah simply felt grateful. Grateful for second chances, for instincts that defy explanation, and for a love so pure it could sense danger in silence and refuse to let harm come to those it cherished. Duke never asked for recognition or praise. He simply did what came naturally to him. He loved, he protected, and he stayed faithful until the very end. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. Your support helps us share more incredible true stories of love, courage, and the unbreakable bonds between humans and animals. Share this video with someone who loves heartwarming tales. You never know whose day you might brighten. And don't forget to comment below with your own pet stories. We'd love to hear how animals have impacted your lives.